Let's just take a look, shall we, at what that now means for the standings. It's turned out to be a brilliant weekend for Manchester City, with all those around them dropping points. For Spurs, they remain second, 2 points clear of Liverpool. Chelsea move up to the top 10 for the first time, it seems, in a very long time. They are 3 points adrift of Manchester United. Former Chelsea defender Mario Melchior is with us. We'll hear from Mario in a moment.
Where are we going to start, lads?
Well, that was going to be my question to you, Craig Burley. Where do we start?
Well, I think, first of all, I'd say we didn't... it's my view we learned nothing about Chelsea tonight. They got the 3 points, but we learned nothing about them in terms of how much improvement there's going to be. Because it was a non-contest. Spurs hung in there. Chelsea made hard work of it. But that really took the edge off everything. I suppose... Did Spurs players lose their head? I certainly think, and Postecoglou was asked about it after the game, was it the Udogie challenge? What sparked this? I think we saw Romero getting too involved, and we've seen it before from this player. He's had a great season. He obviously won the World Cup 12 months ago. He's had a great season alongside Van de Ven. But we saw with a little kick out, which he should have gone for. Petulant or not, you can't do it, right? And you know, he should have been sent off for that kick out. And then his challenge was just crazy because he can play the ball, he can make that challenge without putting the player in the danger that he put Enzo Fernandez in, because he knew what he was doing. He played that ball, he raked his studs right up, halfway up the shin pad. It was forceful, it was, I think it was vicious, there was intent in there, it was over the top, it met every criteria. When Shaka and I looked at it straight away, we went, that's it. And it, as you said, it got worse every time you looked at it.
Listen, to Craig's point, as much as we were talking about Chelsea having won 4-1, Craig said we haven't learned an awful lot about Chelsea. I disagree. I think this Chelsea is worse than this result suggests. Keep in mind...
Oh, shut, that's harsh.
No, hold on. Against nine-man Spurs were the better team for a long period in that second half, and then ran out of gas. So, nine-man Spurs, again, I have to underline that. They had the goal chalked off, as Craig mentioned. They had the Betancourt opportunity. Son brings a good save out of Sanchez. Nine-man Spurs. Chelsea 4-1, but it says absolutely nothing, or nothing good to me, how in the game Spurs still were. On the other side of that same coin, I thought Spurs were outstanding. Everything about Postecoglou just continues to impress. We'll see how they cope with the injuries now, because those are our key players that are missing. We've spoken about how important Maddison is. We'll see how long he's out for. At least he was able to leave under his own strength. And then to Craig's point, the Romero challenge. I mean, goodness me. I'm not sure you see many worse challenges in the game today. And this as a red card is not new. We've seen this given as a red card. We've argued for it to be a red card time and time again.
The way the intent, I think the intent and the force that he put behind it, I think that even made it worse, like even what Shaka just emphasized. Because normally winning the ball was not the problem. The problem was not about winning the ball because his timing was on. But then he really purposely pushed through it. And I think that was already, and he was a lucky boy because being on the field, come on, giving a kick to, and it's not coming like, we can talk enough about it, but kicking somebody while he's on, while you're on the floor, it is because the referee didn't see it. But if he saw it, he was a lucky boy to still be on it. And if we look at the game, the guys already highlighted, I think also, I agree, Spurs started the game much better. We could see the difference between the two sides, that we had a confident side and a side that is still being built. What did Chelsea do? Because you could see also Pochettino at the end, at the end, I think after maybe when they got the first red card, he started talking to them. Why is he talking to them? Because he knew that they were struggling to break that line. The line was that high up and you have that much pace in your team. Why did it take you so long to break the line? Because most of the guys didn't understand it. And sometimes when they broke through the line, some of them, I have to say it, were a little bit greedy instead of setting each other up. Because there were moments they could pass the ball to each other and they still went for their own glory. And I think they have to, it's just like they're really working on getting this understanding going and making sure that they want to set each other up, because it looks way better and it becomes an easier game to win.
Chelsea.
And we are back again. Hello guys, welcome back to the Football Connect. I'm your host Sam, and we are back again with another one. Sorry that I'm just fixing a bit of my camera here so that you guys can see what I'm talking about here. As we are listening to the guys as they are analyzing the performance of Chelsea versus Arsenal, we are hearing that Shaka is going that we learned nothing. We learned absolutely nothing of Chelsea, and I feel like that is really harsh. I don't think so, and I'm going to try to explain this. This is a young team. That has to be very clear. This is a young team. They're learning their craft. They're building something special. And you could see that in the moment when they had so many men advantage, they did not know what to do. And that had to take their manager speaking to them. Like what we're being told here. They were speaking to them, telling them where to be, how to set yourself, and how to actually get something out of this game. I'm telling you, there is something special about this Chelsea team. Whether Shaka is saying what he's saying or not, you can tell that they're working on something that is really special. And Craig made it so sure, analyzing how stupid some of the tackles that these guys are making, how Romero was to be the guy who finds himself trying to kill the player that is playing against, because it was not necessary. How do you kick a player when he's down? He survived that. Then he continued again to go after the players, hitting them with the crazy tackles. So that tells you that there is so much that Spurs really made so much mistakes on, but also we can talk about how Arsenal needed the guidance of their manager to get into this game. That tells you that they're still learning the craft. And I think rather than to say that we learned nothing of them, I think one person can come out and say that we got to see how much of a leader Mauricio Pochettino is to the team and how much he's going to work on to make them perfect. So I cannot run and say that we learned nothing of Chelsea. We learned that it's a small team and it's a team that is still building. And I think they're building into something exciting. I don't know if you agree with me. Let's hear what the boys has to say again.
It took so long to break this Spurs side down because they didn't have the brains out there from middle to front to understand how to break such a high line. When you have such a high line, it's all about midfield runners from deep, right? That's what it's about. And when you continually try to get, Sterling, Palmer, Jackson, but Sterling and Jackson in particular, when you continually try to get them in off the shoulder of the last defender, then it's always going to be 50-50. Whereas if you've got a Gallagher or a Fernandes or a Caicedo coming from 10 yards deeper, making good angle runs, they've got 30-40 yards to run into. And they're going to be clearly onside. We saw that at the end. They finally figured it out at the end. About 5 minutes, 10 minutes to go, they figured it out. That's why they had such... I remember having arguments with front guys when this kind of scenario happened, saying, listen, if I see you try to bend a run in there again, we're going to have a fight, right? Because you try to bend a run in there, they're so high up, you're offside. Let a runner go from the middle of the park. Let a runner go from deep, and you just drag the defender out. So that's one of the reasons it took Chelsea such a long time to break them down.
To that point, is it naive of Postecoglou to maintain that high line?
Yeah. Well, we saw the interview after the game, Postecoglou's to Sky Sports, and it was once again, it was quite entertaining and enlightening into his mentality. His comments to Patrick Davison, the reporter, were when he asked him the question and he said, should you have kept the high line? He went, that is who we are. And that's who we will be. And we have been since the moment I've walked into this football club until the moment I leave. And his quip at the end was, if we were down to 5 or 6 men, he said, we'd still have played the same way. So, look, is it a normal way to do it? The answer is no. You'd normally just park everybody in the box and say, OK, break us down. But that's not what this manager is about. And it's hard to criticise that when he's come in and had such an emphatic change on the style and everybody's buying into it.
I understand what he's saying, but surely you have to be able to react, don't you, as a manager, to what's going on? And we saw Chelsea make that breakthrough a number of times.
But the bottom line until right at the end, when they were out on their feet, there was, up to 90 minutes, there was the Eric Dyer disallowed goal from the set piece, and there was a Bentancur chance to equalise. So, in that respect, they had hung in for the bulk of the game.
They were competing. They were competing with 9 men up until the last 5 minutes of the game, where inevitably you run out of steam. And the thing I like about this is not just that you miss out on a point. Let's say they somehow get a goal and they draw 2-2 and sit deep to your point and hang on. It says that we're not afraid of anybody. It says that even when we're down to 9 men, we're going to be true to the football that has got us this far. We are not going to shirk any kind of challenge. So for sacrificing a point, I think you've sent a far bigger message to that dressing room.
Tottenham have spent 2 years, maybe 3 years, with 11 men on the field sitting behind the ball.
Yeah.
And we have criticised it. It's been horrible to watch.
I understand, like, his philosophy, the way he plays, and come on, we all agreed already. The way he Goglu plays is beautiful to watch. You know, anyone that, if you like football, you like the way he wants to play. The only thing I think we must have learned from this situation, in the sense of, like, I don't know if he's always gonna play that high line in the sense of, like, reacting to how the situation is, because keeping his team, I think if they would have scored one of the goals, let's say Son's goal, right, when he breaks through and he has that strike and Sanchez saves it, if one of them would have gone in, he only had, what, maybe 10 minutes or, I don't know, it was around 2 at the end. He might have dropped the line, because he was very good in the way he worked his line, because Fikairo, the goalkeeper of Spurs, was incredibly good. Like, we can talk, you know, like how Chelsea could not break that line. Yes, I agree with that. But how he was playing, oh my God. If I have a goalkeeper like that behind me, that every time he was reading the pass that Chelsea was trying to break the line, he was there, almost like a center defender. And it was incredible to watch, because he stopped maybe 4 or 5 or 6, I don't know how many numbers. And I think that was one of the key things. And away from that, I think for Jackson, guys, he scored 3 times. He should have scored, I think, 5.
Yeah.
Because it looked great, but the last one after he scored a hat-trick, he missed, and the one before, the header as a striker. And I'm the guy that said Jackson has the speed, the strength, and everything, but he has to make sure that he keeps on working on that to become the ultimate striker for Chelsea, because goals is all people are going to judge you on.
This is one thing that makes so much sense. We talk about so much about how this Chelsea is still growing. I feel like people forget that these kids are growing up. Look at how Craig is talking about how important it is that when you're playing with a team that is some men down and they're playing a high line, you have to learn to use the midfielders as the runners who get the ball when you hit the ball just behind the high line, so that when they do that, they can focus and continue to get on the balls. Because I think that was very important in giving us the direction over how this team can actually get an idea, because even though he's talking about it, they learned in the end. As they continued with the game, they got to understand that, okay, so the only way to get something out of this game is to take advantage of the chances that are being provided for us, because by taking advantage of those chances, it allows us to score more goals than what we are actually seeing in the pitch. And of course, it took time, but when it started clicking, you could see that there was an advantage. I'm sorry that it took out maybe up to 75 minutes for them to actually take advantage of that. I saw it when it started with Gallagher running, and we also saw that the likes of the defenders were there taking advantage of that. But also we can talk about Postecoglou playing the high line now. That is crazy. You cannot go down to 9 men and you keep continuing playing a high line. But he's talking about this is how he's going to be doing up to the day he leaves Spurs. So that just sends a message to the dressing room that it doesn't matter that we are 10 minutes down, or even 9 men, we are 9 men, even 8, we are down to 8 men. We are still going to continue to play a high line so that we could continue causing problems, we continue doing something. So as much as that, we can see that maybe it could be a gain in terms of what he's teaching his dressing room, but also I felt like he sacrificed an embarrassment that he got into the end that he couldn't have avoided when he discovered there were 9 men. We have also other teams that likes to play high lines, but when they go to 9 men down after that's when they know when to come back and to keep that straight midfield that can protect the team. And it looks like this is a different manager. But like what we are being told here, Jackson could have scored even 5 goals. He missed the first chance and even the second chance, but scored the other 3. It could have been a different game, and Chelsea, you could see that they really struggled Tottenham really struggled to keep up with the pace, because of course they were using so much energy in terms of going forward, because they were still playing a high line, and the high line only means you're going forward to attack, and we could see that could have been taken advantage of, but because of how it was set up, it became a different game in the end. So there's so much to learn from that, but let's talk about it, people. Let's see where we go as we move on to the next comment. Let's hear what people are saying here. Do me a favor, click the like button as we continue.
I think what we saw tonight was a consequence of the horrendous officiating that we've witnessed for a year or two now.
They got everything right, didn't they? With the exception of the Romero, which could have been a red.
Yeah, they did, but I think what we saw was officials absolutely at breaking point, taking so long, too long actually, to be quite frank. I've always said take your time and get it right, but that was
like the Eric
was
goal
crazy.
You could see from the first.
Yeah. But I think it's a consequence of everything else that's gone on, and maybe even a consequence of Arteta's press conference, which we'll get to, from the weekend and all the other stories in the previous weeks, and then the offside goal, the shambles at Tottenham when the Liverpool goal was disallowed, and blah blah blah. And I wonder as well, the stoppages were so long. We've seen a player go off with a hamstring injury, and Mickey van de Ven, who's been absolutely superb. But that's not helping the players either. If you're standing around for prolonged period 2 or 3 times within a half, and then you've all of a sudden got to put the burners on and make a sprint, that can accelerate a potential muscular injury, because you're actually when the VAR are taking such a long look at it, you are kind of just standing around doing nothing. And
I think that's the thing, and that's the frustrating thing, is everything just has to be more efficient. Like, just, obviously they made that massive mistake in the Liverpool match, and they don't want to make it again. But there's got to be an area where we can get this done quickly, efficiently, and correctly.
Yeah, but from a refereeing perspective, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't in this situation, kind of given some of the criticisms of late and trying to get the game restarted quickly. If something is doubtful, you just kind of dismiss it as, well, the ruling on the field stands, and then there's this kind of re-refereeing after, and the criticism that come in the press. That don't help. And to Craig's point, leans into, well, let's make absolutely certain about this. So the game has to decide what they want out of VAR here. Do they want it quick or as accurately as we can get it quickly, or do we want to take our time and be absolutely certain? But you can't ask for one and then criticise that decision when it comes.
Yeah, if you want the game speeded up from the offside point of view, you get the automated offside, which is, as it says, it's automated. But they voted against that in England. We see it in the Champions League, but it's so accurate. What it would mean was, if your big toe was 1 millimetre offside, that would be offside. Right. And in England, they wanted some leeway. So that means we have to draw the lines, and it has to be adjudicated. And so the automated offside is almost a perfect science, but it's going to raise its head to the argument, oh, this is ridiculous, because he's a millimetre or 2 millimetres off his big toe, and they're going to chop it off. No one wins.
The problem is, like, if you look at the first half, Mario, it was 56 minutes long, and we only saw 23 minutes of action. That's a problem. Obviously, that is an issue that needs to be addressed.
It's an issue that they have to tackle really quickly because some of the players, like, when you play the first half, you don't want to feel like the game is already done. And also, I understand that the people are in the crowd want to see the game and the people at home, but you also have to understand we want to see high quality and we want to see players that can play high quality. Van der Ven, you understand, is one of the reasons one of the injuries picks up. Doesn't want to say that it's identical exactly to the time being, but you don't want to play the game that long for no reason. And I understand they say, yeah, when the ball is out or when it's a free kick or whatever, we got to add time. But sometimes they run over time. The first half was way too long for me. And this is a game, I want to make sure that everybody understands it. The Spurs-Chelsea game is a really intense game. I remember myself coming to England and playing this game. Sometimes you walk into the stadium, you feel it. You just feel that. It's a feeling that is very difficult to describe if you play any other game. But when you play a derby, the feeling that goes through your system is like, I really felt like, I said to myself, I played this game a number of times when I was back home. But when I arrived in London and played against the Spurs team, wow, that fight between them, I understood exactly what kicked off. I was actually surprised that so many from different country guys understood it really well. In this game, everybody regardless if Romero got the red card, but he understood what the level of this game was asking. Maybe he went too far, or maybe, he clearly went too far, but he understood how important in London it is, this derby game. It's something else.
Romero cost his.
Okay, so let's talk about the VAR decisions and how long they took. We were just complaining a couple of weeks against the game of Liverpool where they did it so quickly and they missed out that the referees, what they decided in the game was not exactly what we got outside, and that costed another team a goal which could have been relevant in terms of fighting because they ended up playing with 9 men at the end of the game. So as much as people will be complaining about how long the VAR checks are taking, let these guys do their due diligence because this the same as the Mikel Arteta incident. You either want it this way or this way. If you want it to be perfect and straight to the point, then give it the time that it's needed so that these guys check all their angles and make sure that it's perfect and straight to the point. Because if they're going to be rushing and making decisions, how much that cost us is us coming out with some crazy official statements complaining about how the game went in, complaining about how things should have been different and how situations should have been turned otherwise. Because if we want it to be perfect, we have to be willing to take that. There's something that is very important that people have to take in this game. We need this to be total quality. We need it to be so perfect. It's very important. You can't complain about something and not be willing to do the time, because that's very, very important. You have to be willing to wait on the time. So whatever these guys are saying, you have to give it the time. And guess what? This was a big game which so many eyeballs were watching. So many people were watching. Look at how many people are reacting to this result. So many people were watching. And I have to say, for the first time, nobody's coming out complaining so much about VAR, because I think they did what they had to do, which was very important, which is to give it the time the decisions needed so that they get the decisions to the correctness of their full potential. Because running into some decisions can always mislead so many people and lead into chaos that we cannot even control. And we have seen so much already this season, out of any other seasons. This season we've seen so much that so many people are still complaining over. So I feel like as much as we are complaining about the time they're taking 3 minutes to get to a decision or whatever, we have to go with it. You refuse the semi-automated the VAR, which was going to be so clear and straight to the point at a lesser time. We have to be clear with this one. That's what we go with now. Maybe next season you can vote for another one when you get the chance to vote Premier League clubs, because you are the partners of this game. But because we are doing this one and we have to rely on man-made drawing lines, we are going to have to play with that line, because that's what we decided. And that was the set of quality you needed in the beginning of making decisions. So that's what you got. Now talking about what we always comes in terms of the derbies. Of course, the derbies like this requires passion. We need to see the fights. We need to see sacrifices. We need to see people throwing themselves. And I understand what these guys are saying, that Romero understood what he was asking for. And maybe he did it so well, but it costed his team. We should not forget that. His decisions, his crazy tackles costed the team at the end of the game. And that's why we are here, and that's why Tottenham Hotspurs are in shambles and are crying, because he costed his team. Now let's see how they can move on from this, how they can improve from this, how they can build up from this, because at this moment we all know they are already in shambles, because Romero's decisions of going with passion, with craziness, costed this team. Because as much as you remember that the derbies used to have fights, this is a new era, a VAR era, where we are going to see every single bit of anything you do, and it will always come back to haunt you. And that's what happened in this game.
There's no doubt about it. We can talk about Udogie, more inexperienced, second half, second yellow, but Romero's hunger and thirst almost for going over the top of the ball in these challenges effectively just dishevelled the whole Spurs side. And it's a shame, because that first...
How do you harness that? Because obviously you want that bit of edge, you know, you want that fight for you.
Well, you have to tell them, you're not playing in the 1970s and 80s. You just can't do it. And I'm all for aggression. I am all for aggression, but you know as a player when you make a challenge, whether you're going to clean the ball out but keep it low and take a bit of the man, or you're going to clean the ball out and your leg's going to come up and it's going to potentially do some damage. His was the latter, right? And we've seen him do it. There was a challenge I think it was either earlier this year or last year at Bournemouth that we discussed on here, where it was very similar. He got a bit of the ball, but he went through onto the player's ankle. He's got a history of challenging this way. And I think Postecoglou has to say to him, look, I don't want to take this aggression out of you, but you have a list as long as your arm with these potential challenges. And ultimately that's what dishevelled this Tottenham side. They scored a great goal that went all the way from their goalkeeper, Vicario, out to Maddison in the end in the wide position. He played a great reverse pass. All of a sudden, Tottenham are down the right. They had gone 100 yards almost, and OK, the Kulusevski shot was deflected, but this goal just said, this is going to be a great game. Yeah. It's going to be a huge test for Chelsea. This is what Tottenham's all about. And then Son scores a great goal. It's correctly offside, and then everything just went wrong for Tottenham. And that's not Chelsea's fault. That is Tottenham's fault. It's their players' fault, and no fault of Van de Ven or anybody getting injured. But I go back to it. Stupid challenges have cost this team tonight.
Obviously, Romero will be out for 3 matches. Van de Ven looks like he's in trouble as well. James Maddison, Postecoglou, of course, said it was precautionary. But if you take a look at that, we've got their upcoming matches. And we don't have their upcoming matches.
Udogie is going to be out as well. Obviously not as long.
So you think this is the first real speed bump, isn't it, for Spurs? And now it's about how you react to that. Yeah,
and look, I don't think Spurs have the squad to go all the way. So this is a huge learning curve once more, if needed, for Ange Postecoglou to say, OK, what have I got? What have I got outside the 12 or 13 or however it is that I've been using? Who's going to come in and play to the standards of, Van de Ven, Udogie at left back, Maddison if he's out for a bit, Richarlison will have to come in, maybe Brennan Johnson will have to play a different position. Who's going to come in from this squad and fill that void? And he's going to learn very quickly whether these players can come in and play the risky football that he wants to play.
So they're just to take you through it, they're at Wolves, home against Villa, and then at Manchester City.
Yeah, listen, the thing for me with this one and the test that will be for Spurs going forward is not the result. Not that you've hit the speed bump and all of a sudden you've lost, and what do you do now, given how well things have gone this season? How do you cope with that loss? Is the injuries. I'm less concerned about Spurs and their style of play than I am about how do they fill that void, especially with Maddison if he's out long term. That's an unknown quantity about Spurs that we're yet to discover. But truth be told, Spurs are playing with house money at this point. Nobody expected Spurs to be this high in the table, sitting at this point of the season. Nobody expected Spurs to be playing this kind of football.
They just raised the bar, though, Shaka.
Yeah.
Expectations are higher now.
Granted,
If they lose the next 3 games, you're like, oh, where's it all gone wrong?
That's what everybody on the outside is saying. For me, if you're part of that dressing room, you're part of what's happening under Postecoglou, even if you lose 2 or 3 of those games, even if all of a sudden you find yourself just outside the top 4 and looking in, I think you are more bought into, you are more convinced about your ability to compete at the highest level with the big boys than you ever thought you would be, and that for me is the bigger takeaway here.
Go on, Mario.
But I understand what Shaka's saying, but you also have to remember a new stadium, and you know how the fans they are hungry for success. So the way that the team was building and going to first in the league, even my mates around me making jokes and cracking jokes, that was because the confidence is rising. While they're up there, I think he Greg made a great point in saying this is his test. This is the test where we're really gonna see how intelligent and what kind of smart movements he will make. Because look at what Pochettino did. Halftime, who did he take off? He take Colwell off. Why? Because he had a yellow card. He knew the competition that he had, or the fight spirit what he had going on, was not going to be for this derby game, because he was going to get another yellow card. Then he's got another player out. So I think Postecoglou is going to have to be really smart and picking the right details in who is he going to play, where is he going to put them, and how is he going to adapt to the situation he's in right now. Because he has to move really quickly because he's got a great team, but it's when everybody's available. But let's see now what happens when tomorrow away.
Honestly, Maddison obviously has been terrific. Tottenham have been terrific. It's hard to single sort of one player out, but from an attacking sense, he's a kind of guy that gets the headlines. It's clear it seems clear that Van de Ven is the more serious of the injuries, and I actually think he's the bigger problem. And the reason I say that is because the way Spurs play. I think they'll always get some creativity, be it from Brennan Johnson or Heung-min Son or Richarlison or Bentancur back in the side or back available, he's fit again. Maybe not quite the same as Maddison, but they'll get something. I think the problem comes at the back, Dan, because what they do is, clearly we saw it tonight, they play a high line, they push the 2 full-backs in, and that puts a lot of pressure on the 2 centre-backs. I've said that from the very first day of the season when we watched his team play away at Brentford. They went, he needs to have centre-halves that can run, because they have to be the insurance policy if the players lose the ball further up the field for that ball over the top. And Van de Ven has been absolutely brilliant at that. He's one of the quickest defenders around, not just in England but across Europe. So he was part of an insurance policy for them losing that ball. That's somewhat gone. You look at the others that might come in there. Eric Dyer's not quick. Who else is going to come in and play centre-back? If Ben Davies is fit again, can he come in and play left-sided centre-back? So this Van de Ven injury is a big problem for the way Spurs want to play in terms of defending the counter-attack.
Final point to you on this, Mario. Who finishes higher, Spurs or Chelsea? 11 points separate them at the moment.
I mean, no, we have to look at what team is playing better football at the moment, and I have to sad to say that Chelsea won, but Spurs is the team that's playing, better football. So let's go from that first. Let's see if Chelsea can play even better than what they did today, because there were some points, some people that I watch Mudryk coming on. I think he still is wrongly placed. He needs to understand to play deeper, so he makes more problem for the defenders instead of asking all the ball in his feet while he's so quick. Little things like that. I think they got to work on details. While Spurs, at the moment, they are a step ahead of Chelsea. So I will always pick them first.
I don't think we've ever been so mean to a team that won 4-1.
I think in the end we got to what we are talking about. There are so many things that we need to analyze in this last part of this video as we get into the most important part. So the first thing that we have to look at here is how Postecoglou will deal with so many injuries he got into this game, and we also need to talk about the management. how he was supposed to manage this game after what had happened, especially coming from halftime, and how these Spurs players can grow from this, as well as these Chelsea players, because I feel like so many people are really against what Chelsea did. Chelsea did what they needed to do. As much as it was not perfect, they will learn from it. That's 100% that I'm positive about. They will definitely learn from it and they will really improve. One thing that I have to say, especially going to what Craig was talking about, they are four players who went out in one game today for Chelsea, for Tottenham. We saw red card for Romero, 3 games out. That's very important. That's 3 straight Premier League games out. Because remember, they are no longer one. Maybe if there's an FA that could help, it could be 2 Premier League games. But 3 games who's out. We also have Van der Ven, who went out with an injury. And it looks like he's the one who got it the worst of them. And because of what Craig was saying here, they want to play a high line, and everything that they do, they want to play a high line. They don't want to look back. They just want to play a high line. And when you play a high line that high, you need defenders who can run, who can protect that back line whenever they are hit on the counter attack or something. And now, because they no longer have Van der Beek, the guy who have proven that he can run even 100 miles, he can do anything, the guy is out. That is going to be a problem. And we need to see how Tottenham are going to be able to play against for this one, because it's really going to show so much of this team. Romero, now that one, I think he let his team down in this game. He should have done better. Just repeating to what these people were saying, he let his team down. He needed to be the guy who was there, who stood by the team, who did not, after doing that first tackle he got away from, he should have controlled himself, controlled the emotion, but did not do. But you could see the difference in terms of managing tactics and who's actually more alert into this game and what the derby can bring in. Maybe Postecoglou is still learning. That's what we can say of the game, because we saw this guy coming out, Liverpool being taken out by Mauricio Pochettino, because he was already in the heat of the game. He was already emotionally charged, and he knew that he had to take him out and put a different player. That's what I expected maybe from Postecoglou, from Udogie, especially who's a young kid who's still learning his craft, because now that led to the second yellow card, which gave to be a red. Now that's gonna cost the team going forward. One game he'll be out, and they needed him. They need him, especially now that they don't have runners in the back in terms of the defenders. Because if I was going to say maybe, of course, let's say Eric Dyer is not really that much of a runner. Udogie could have been that player, because he also can run. He could not have really overlapped that much. But now, where we stand, it's really going to be exciting watching the next 5-6 games that are coming for Spurs, because they will be opened up easily at the front, and a lot of things will happen. So now it's it's an unfair valuation, but it's very important to see how strong this team is going forward. Going forward as well, looking at where we can go from. It seems like we cannot talk so much about Chelsea, because Chelsea are already where they are. But there is so much that these guys can build on from. Of course, they already gotten some crazy decisions that has gone against them, and they've really found themselves with some decisions that are really going to cost them going forward. But they can build from this. Let's hope Postecoglou is going to do some miracles in terms of where they go next, because in terms of in-game management, I think he failed in terms of this game. Now, let's see if they're going to continue with this high line, because some players that he has now, I don't think Dyer can keep up, because he doesn't have legs, that's for sure. Talk about who will finish higher. Let's be honest. As much as Chelsea won this game, we are still not 100% confirmed and sure that they can finish higher, because they still have to give us more in terms of us to believe them that they have something to prove in this Premier League. At the moment, we have nothing, but we have to wait and see. But we can see who's playing good football, and at this moment, it's Chelsea, it's Tottenham Hotspurs. So it's only 11 points. It could change by after 3 games, but it's still the 11 points that separates these two teams, and we have to keep it really. But I'm impressed with the game. I'm impressed with what we saw in the game, and I'm impressed to see where we can go from this. Let's see how they build up from this both teams. But do me a favor, click the like button, subscribe to Connect. Let's see how the Football Connect build up from this amazing and exciting game that we just witnessed. I'm out. Peace. See you on another vid. We go.